Good evening. Welcome to the live stream of the Dorchester School District 2 Board of Trustees September 28th board meeting. These meetings are held on the second and fourth Monday of each month and always provide useful information regarding the operation of our school district and schools. These meetings are recorded and are posted on this page at the conclusion of the meeting. Before the meeting begins, you'll want to know about these important updates. Make sure to join us at our next board meeting on October the 12th. We will announce and celebrate our 2020 DD2 Teacher of the Year. We want to share this special moment with as many people as possible in our district family, so we invite you to help us spread the word. Did you know we accept substitute teacher applications throughout the year? This is an ongoing process because of the integral part our substitute teacher team plays in each of our school families. If you have a love of teaching and giving back to the community, we want to hear from you. Apply online at applitrack.com/Dorchester/online app. To assist our families and students with technology support, we've added an online student technology support form. Our goal of this process is to quickly identify issues in the order they are submitted and to provide quality technical support in a timely manner. Our team of DD2 teachers who specialize in instructional technology support will review your submission to determine if they can provide you with immediate assistance. A member of the teacher team will reach out to you via email or phone to follow up. Visit the technology page at dd2.org/backtoschool. Under important links, click on the Submit Your Tech Issue link to access the support form. Finally, the 2020-2021 Parent-Student Handbook will be available this week at dd2.org/backtoschool under important links. It is a comprehensive and interactive resource that includes important information such as curriculum, policies, school operations, and more. Again, thank you for joining us this evening, and make sure to follow us on the Dorchester District 2 Facebook page at Team DD2. Good evening. Welcome to the live stream of the Dorchester School District 2 Board of Trustees September 28th board meeting. These meetings are held on the second and fourth Monday of each month and always provide useful information regarding the operation of our school district and schools. These meetings are recorded and are posted on this page at the conclusion of the meeting. Before the meeting begins, you'll want to know about these important updates. Make sure to join us at our next board meeting on October the 12th. We will announce and celebrate our 2020 DD2 Teacher of the Year. We want to share this special moment with as many people as possible in our district family, so we invite you to help us spread the word. Did you know we accept substitute teacher applications throughout the year? This is an ongoing process because of the integral part our substitute teacher team plays in each of our school families. If you have a love of teaching and giving back to the community, we want to hear from you. Apply online at applitrack.com/Dorchester/online app. To assist our families and students with technology support, we've added an online student technology support form. Our goal of this process is to quickly identify issues in the order they are submitted and to provide quality technical support in a timely manner. Our team of DD2 teachers who specialize in instructional technology support will review your submission to determine if they can provide you with immediate assistance. A member of the teacher team will reach out to you via email or phone to follow up. Visit the technology page at dd2.org/backtoschool. Under Important Links, click on the Submit Your Tech Issue link to access the support form. Finally, the 2020-2021 Parent-Student Handbook will be available this week at dd2.org/back-to-school under Important Links. It is a comprehensive and interactive resource that includes important information such as curriculum, policies, school operations, and more. Again, thank you for joining us this evening, and make sure to follow us on the Dorchester District 2 Facebook page at Team DD2.
I would like to call this meeting to order and thank all of you who made it out in this dreary, dreary weather to be here. And for those of you who are at home in a nice warm place, thank you for caring enough to tune in to this. I will need at this time an approval of our agenda.
So moved.
Okay. Mr. Guthrie, is there a second? Mr. Farnsworth, any discussion? All those in favor, say aye, or raise your hand. Thank you. And now we'll turn the time over to Mr. Guthrie.
Dear Lord, please give this board the strength, wisdom, courage, and guidance to do what's truly in the best interest of the 26,000 plus students in this district. And please continue blessings of health and safety upon all of our students, teachers, administrators, and all of our DD2 family. In your name we pray, amen.
Thank you, Mr. Guthrie. At this time, we do not have any public comments that are specifically on the agenda items, so we will move, and we will need an approval of the minutes from September the 14th. I will need a motion for that.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Ms. Hughes. Thank you, Mr. Guthrie. Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand. Okay, thank you. It is unanimous. And now at this time, we have our superintendent's report with Mr. Pye.
Good afternoon, or good evening, I guess you might say. First of all, before I get into anything with the depth that I want to talk about, I want to let everyone know that as of today, we have set the 2021 graduation date at the North Charleston Coliseum in hopes that that's where we will be. This year, it will be on Friday, June 18th. Friday, June 18th. And more details will be coming out in the coming days as we let you know, as we iron out the details with the Coliseum. But with all the schools being pushed back, Charleston and Berkeley usually use the Coliseum after the school year ends, so we try to do it a week or two before. So this year we're kind of all backed up on the tracks, and that was, we thought, a very good day, since last year we did it on weekdays at 7:30 in the morning, and we had pretty good turnouts for those. So again, we don't know what the social distancing rules will be, if they even allow us to do it, but right now we want to get on their calendar and be there in the event, hopefully, that things will work out fine and we can go back and have as many people as you want to bring, or if we are forced to do any kind of limitation, the Coliseum holds a lot more than any of our stadiums, and of course indoor with no heat problems and those kinds of things. We might could have like 4 passes for each person. We hope up to at least that, since that's a special day. And of course the event will be streamed again as it was last year. That was very successful. A lot of the grandparents were upset that they didn't have tickets from Wisconsin, New York, and Oklahoma. We got raves in the following week, said, thank you for sparing my 90-year-old grandmother or whatever to have to fly to Charleston to see this graduation. She was able to sit in her living room and watch it live and play it back over and over and not have to fight the heat or any of the elements of climbing steps and all. So it turned out to be a very positive thing in the end. And of course, we had never done it that way. And the last experience I had with having it in the stadium was not a good one to remember. So we had moved it from there. but when the Coliseum was not available, everybody was scrambling. And of course, a lot of the schools in the area just streamed theirs. They did not. They did it virtually, but we tried to give our seniors a fitting, goodbye to a wonderful school career in the district and how much we appreciated all that they have done during their school years with us, as many of our seniors have spent their entire school life in the school district. And so that's all they know. Now, on a real positive note, I want to bring up something wonderful happened to us earlier last week. The folks in Washington, D.C. named Rawlings Middle School of the Arts a National Blue Ribbon School for 2020, and we're so proud of that. It's quite an honor to be recognized. You have to be nominated by your state superintendent, and you have to be, the news article said top 15, they sent me a letter and said it was the top 10. So top 10% of high-performing schools in the United States were the ones named. You don't nominate yourself. It's not a campaign. You have to be nominated. You have to turn in all this documentation to prove what you have, and then they go through, and all applications aren't accepted, even though you've met the criteria. You have to write up the right stuff. Poor effort of that will cost you. So with that said, we weren't surprised that they were named, but because they joined a list of 4 others. We have 5 National Blue Ribbon schools in our district, and I think in Low Country we exceed any district by far. We have 10 Palmetto Finest schools. And some of these schools we're recognizing tonight, matter of fact, Rollins, Beach Hill, Flowertown, Oak Brook Elementary, and Somerville Elementary have won both Palmetto's Finest and National Blue Ribbon, the highest 2 awards you can win. That's a state award in Palmetto's Finest, and it's a national award with the National Blue Ribbon. So at this time, I would like for these principals to come forward. We want to just recognize you to the group. I think we want a standing ovation for you folks. First, we would like to welcome this year's winner, Patrick Pye from Rawlings Middle School of the Arts. We're going to go in reverse order. Renee Harris from Beach Hill, just 2 years ago. Of course, we have Donna Goodwin was principal at Flowertown. We have her assistant, Rachel Mahaffey, with us, who was part of that team. We have Patsy Pye with Oak Brook Elementary School. And Dr. Eugene Sires is deceased, but here tonight we're so glad to see Dr. Carolyn Sires. Somerville Elementary. Somerville Elementary and Oak Brook were tied that year. They were a tie. Anytime we win any award or any recognition, it's one of our 10 core values is celebrating and appreciating the accomplishments of our staff and our students and our community. And when we win any kind of recognition, no matter what the source, the whole district is being recognized, because they always say Beach Hill from Dorchester District 2, Flowertown from Dorchester District 2. Each school is identified by the district and, of course, our great state of South Carolina. And so we were just pleased again. We constantly love having winners, and sometimes we have a dry spell or so, but it's gotten really productive in recent years to have this many schools nominated by the state superintendent. And of course, part of her nomination, not only I'm sure when she saw the records of how high Rollins scored in the top 3 in the state in middle schools, I'm sure it was her visit when she came to help me with the auditorium issues that we were having with OSF. Molly came and she spoke, and she was taking back what we were dealing with and promised to help us. But she asked why I'm here isn't that art school here? We see it's right here, joining the auditorium. Can I just step in and visit a class? Well, the first class we go into is a music class, a choral class. And that's what she taught when she was a teacher at the beginning of her career, was music. So she goes in and they are practicing for, I think it was some Christmas holiday music they were playing. And so she immediately knew the song. There was no music on the piano or anything, and she asked the music teacher, if you would lead the group, I would like to accompany you on the piano. So she moved to the piano and just started playing away. She was completely in her element. She had a big agenda, lots of things going on. She let her hair down, and she was enjoying our children, our staff. It was a great day. So it was no surprise when they got the letter. I thought, well, you have to see to believe. And she was blown away. And she made comments. This is one gorgeous school. These children, boy, they know their stuff. They're fine. And she was even just couldn't get over the fact that we have a fine art school that you have to get into by audition only. It's not on your grades, your academic achievement. It's none of that. It's you get in by audition. So and it's a long line of people trying to get in, and and the staff there does a great job of working with them for 3 years to really get them focused if they want to continue in high school and go on to continue in that vein. We have a lot of kids who over the years have come back and they teach. Matter of fact, Rollins has at least two former students that of the school that are back teaching the arts. They were so inspired. So that's what it's all about. And this is probably the richest arts district in the state. We have really done a good job of sending what we did at Rollins out to all schools to give all children that have that ability, whether they qualify in the audition or not, a chance to seek their dreams and their opportunities through the many exploratory classes that we offer at every school, including all the arts. We have dance and orchestra, and we have choral, we have various forms of art, we have all those type of programs, steel drums. It just goes on, and all of our schools, middle schools in particular, and high schools have all those above programs. So really good. Dr. Sires, it's nice seeing you. Have you been enjoying your retirement?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah, well, don't brag about it now. Come on. I knew you wanted that opportunity. Well, we so appreciate you coming tonight, and Rachel, for you at the last minute stepping in for your principal. I appreciate that also. All right. That's those two announcements. The third announcement is to catch up on. We did begin the hybrid model as we discussed the last 2 weeks ago, and we've begun that. It's been a week, and no different than the other weeks. We've had great successes, and we've had, naturally issues of trying to continue to bring people on board and work with it. It's gotten better every day. My concern is, I do have a concern, our teachers are teaching like never before. And they're being asked to do the impossible. Matter of fact, they're asking to do the impossible. We ask them to kind of, in most cases, let's just do one thing. Choose one or the other you want to do and do it well. But some of them want to do both. They want to have all their kids. They don't want to share them with anybody else. And that's remarkable they're that way. But it takes its toll, folks. Mm-hmm. Usually we have a bunch of teachers in here. You don't look around, you don't see them. They're home working. They're tired. They've had a busy first day back. Last week ended on a high note, and we are assuming it's going to continue. We continue to watch the formula that we were using with the data, and I want to remind people that's not the only data we do look at. We look at lots of data, but that's the one that the public understands the most. That is like a report card. You either have it or you don't have it, and there's entrance exam requirements, other things that you have to look at. But we also said we would be flexible. If we saw any wrinkle in it that could give us the opportunity, we're going to go there. Nobody wants to be face-to-face more than me. And I will be very blunt with you, and I probably should not say this. I could not teach in any model but face-to-face. So I'd be one of those that probably would have to tell y'all goodbye. I do not do well on a computer. I'm a people person. I like to see the eyes of the children I'm teaching. I like to see their faces. I like to see who's not smiling, who is smiling, so I know who's getting it, who's having a hard time. I want to know the issues our children are facing in their personal lives that are affecting their education. I want to communicate directly with the parents what I see and feel each and every time I'm there. I go around the district, and the teachers that are doing virtual, I'm amazed how they're trying to do that, and they're doing it well on the computer. I'm one of those that can't, and I'm sure we have many that's an issue for them. They're top-notch teachers, and they're having some personal meltdowns trying to keep up with a system because they're used to doing a good job. We can't overlook that. The teachers in this district are our backbone. Without the teachers that we have, we would not be successful. We have to take care of them. We have to nurture them too and listen to them, and we have done that. But at the same time, there's a side of me, and I don't believe I'm getting ready to say this, but board members, prepare yourself. I am concerned about the learning of the children. The struggling students in our school district, the young ones, the special needs children, and most importantly, the struggling students that have struggled all the way since they've been in school. When they're out for the summer, there's always a gap. You're out the last 9 weeks of the year, that adds to that gap, and then you have 9 weeks that you don't have full attention, then you're beginning to miss too much of time. We can't help it. None of us have ever done this before. This is uncharted territory. I talk to all the neighboring superintendents all over the state every week. Many districts are doing exactly what we're doing. They're about on our timeline, many of them. Some are still totally virtual, believe it or not, or some other type of model they've created. A few have gone face-to-face. We've been watching Charleston. I talk with Charleston and Berkeley weekly also to watch their numbers as they bring more back. Are they having the cases? You know, we now have to turn in what goes on in the school districts, which is wonderful. So I don't have to go by data that is just given to us by DHEC and the other groups. Instead, I have data about what the other school districts are facing. And they're having a higher number than any of us are experiencing because of that. But remember, both of those districts are considerably larger, too. So you have to look at that. The problem that they're facing, and they will tell you that if they were in the room, is the struggle to do social distancing while at the same time doing face-to-face. Because if the numbers aren't right, you're going to have large numbers. Several High is here today. They have met their 3,200 students. They all showed up. Ashley Ridge is 50 or 60 over, and Fort Rochester is like 75 over. That's over their number expected. And the allocations are figured on 28 to 1. So we have classes, that's the average, which means classes can sometimes be 32 or 33, while other classes may be 22. Well, this year we may have a class with 20, but we may have one with 38. And so dividing it in half makes 19. It's a struggle to try to do that with what we're doing now with the hybrid. But when you put 30-something in a room, and I'm just using that high school because at the change of classes, they have narrow hallways. Those are big people, big kids. And you turn those loose when the bell rings and 3,200 kids are up and down those halls, narrow halls. It really is no social distancing. You can't do that. There's no way we could teach high school effectively if we didn't change the classes. Unlike elementary where we could do a lot more self-contained. So my issue's been on that end, that the high school kids have to have the freedom to go and come, but I'm worried about the size of the classes. Somewhat in middle school, it could be an issue, but not near as bad, and elementary is probably more doable. But the minute we do go back, we're going to have a flood of people saying, okay, we want to come back now. All right, any of those students, and we can't deny that. New students will come in that a bunch of them are homeschooling. They will give that up and come back. And when they do, these will be new seats that will then take us probably to the max in those schools. So those are the issues we're dealing with. And we've peeled off so many teachers to do virtual, enough that at one time we had 9,000 students in there. So we had to peel off a lot of teachers, and they're taught in every school. And some classes may be 30, 35, and then that's why the other class is smaller. But once we go to this, we know that it's going to be this. We want to try this again. It's nothing better than face-to-face, so I'm here to tell you that. It's something we live with, breathe with it. I spent this morning several hours going over everything with the people, our staff, because of the things I'm hearing and seeing and feeling, that, we did say, number one, this is our course of action. I'm proud of the board, and I'm proud of everybody for sticking to our guns of what we needed to do based on what we had to go by. But we never know where this is going, and our kids just can't keep missing stuff. So I'm very concerned that the rubber's going to meet the road somewhere. And I want you to know that the district office is holding anybody back. We see the numbers, and we got so encouraged 2 weeks ago and thought that last week or this week we could begin to model, and it's because of Labor Day. As they said, I've been telling y'all about this, it spiked. And some of you might have looked at some of the numbers of the weekend, some big numbers. Again, I know somebody handed me a handout just here that I guess outside some folks had given it away. There was a story about the situation, personal situation, which I don't enjoy reading, but I need to have it. I have 27,000 kids. There's no way I can know everybody up front and personal like a parent does. So everybody has their own story and how it's affecting them, and I want you to know we're listening. I'm a part of this community, and I live and breathe as an advocate for children, but I'm an advocate also for teachers, and sometimes it just doesn't stack up as even as you'd want it to stack up. But we're watching it, we're looking at it, we're putting in all kind of numbers, and this lady was kind enough to give me a lot of statistics, as she said. Yes, we've had 3,300 deaths, and I'm not minimizing, I'm just reading what she put. But in South Carolina, we have 5,490,000 students. So I guess, I don't know what percentage that is, but I guess that's what she's getting at. Look at the percentage of that and check and see. Maybe you want to take the numbers of Dorchester too, and see, when we look at the numbers, it's all of Dorchester County. Now, my guess is most of the cases would be down here where it's more crowded than perhaps might be in the more rural areas of our county. So with that said, she mentions also about the deaths that we've had. 79% of the deaths in South Carolina are in the United States are age 65 and older. 79%. That's certainly my age group. And 0.6%, or 0.6% now, are under 29 or less in age. So the point she's making is, what is the real danger? Are you looking at other numbers besides the statistics you read in the paper that we get directly from the health sources? Yes, we are. But again, some of these, no one's taking the time to really put these down. I had a conference last week. I wasn't expecting it to go well. I knew we weren't going to agree on what happened. Unfortunately, as I listened, and I really did listen. Because I trust and I valued the people that come to the office. I know they're sincere and they mean well. And the more I listened, the more intrigued I became that, this is real. And what I know to be real on my end and my frustrations, they don't know, and I don't know theirs. And the only way we can know is to have communication and talk and put out solutions and hold hands and try to get to the top of the mountain. We kids can't say, this day will pass. It's a little late in the year to be using that type of comment. It's a new day is coming soon, and people want to know when. There is no crystal ball. So I do want you to know my team is looking every way possible, looking at all the data to see if we can't report back very soon to you what we would like to recommend the board to consider. And when I say that, I don't know what I'm saying because I've not really talked at all with my principals, and they're the main decision makers in the district. We come up with these ideas at the district office, and we poll our principals who are asking them to be checking the pulse of their parents and their students and their teachers, staff constantly, so that when we call you, we want you to be prepared to represent your school. We're feeling like now teachers, after being in this couple of weeks, they just are having a difficult time. I want to know that. Or they're loving it. I got a comment from a teacher today. This is the best year they've ever had. That's exactly what it said. It said, I'm enjoying how we're doing this, love the technology, my kids are responding, but it was a non-tested course. The teachers who are going to be tested, they don't think this is rosy. because they know when it gets down to the bottom, they have no way of knowing how their children are going to perform. And is it fair for their children to be assessed if they've not been taught and have a chance to review? So these are real issues, and I appreciate that so much. And I've had individual conversations with board members, and I hope you saw that I am listening. I am very concerned. I don't have a silver bullet, and I don't make the decision. My team, the last time when we decided to go to hybrid, was the team of leaders that I brought together. We polled the teachers in the district, but I polled, and it was heavy, 75%. But I asked each principal to search and think about what we were talking about and come, and we had 62 out of 62 people to say, keep the course. So I want to make sure you understand we're not just doing this of who's last and who we favor. It was overwhelming, and as a leader, this is my team. They work for me. They work hard for you. They work hard for the community. Everybody's not going to agree with them, but I trust them. I value them, and I know they're smart and they know their thing. But they also, within a week or two, within a week, 3 of them notified me that we took the vote, but I've changed my mind. So I'm glad they feel comfortable to say that, because again, when they got experiencing things that they did, they saw it now from a different perspective. You know, we can all think it's going to be a certain way, but when it happens, it's like, this was not quite what I thought it was. So that's when we learn, and we should learn from everything that we do, and I think our people are learning. They're open, they're receptive. It's still the issue, the health issue, that just, I don't think it's going away anytime soon. We're watching to make sure it goes down enough that we could justify this as the right thing. Does it have to be low, low, low? The answer is, I think you can talk to my team today, no. If there are other variables, and we're watching those, that could be adjusted to a low medium might be fine for us. And we've already been there. We were low medium 2 weeks ago. So we're saying maybe that's as good as we're going to get for a while to do. So we're looking at, again, the only obstacle that I'm seeing now is the social distancing. Molly Spearman put the thing on the buses. We even feel that the buses, we probably can work around that. If a lot of kids don't, try to get in, and of course we told virtual school it was for at least Christmas before we would look at it, and we probably have to hold to that because of the fact that we've got to make sure we are social distancing, and the kids who are already there and made that plunge, their families and them, we owe it to them to give them that shot so we know it's going to work and see how well we fare, and if the virus becomes an issue for us and teachers have to leave. The sub-pool is not good, and so elementary, the classes being as small as some of them are, I could shift teachers around to cover. I'm all right with elementary. But when you get to middle and high school, every position's taken. As I say, it's tight. And we can't find a high school teacher in South Carolina. We've tried. There's none available. So what we have, we've got to keep. I can't afford for 20 of our teachers to call me after we decide to go face-to-face and say, we're out of here, we're going to have to leave. It's just not going to work for my family and I. Then I understand that, and that's their right to do that. But we can't replace them, which then means the classes get larger and the problem gets more compounded. So there's a lot more to this than just sitting there on a Monday morning reading the paper, say, oh, the numbers here, this is what we're going to do. It's much different than that. But I did assess my team this morning. Everybody is on board with trying to do what's right for the kids. Yes, safety is paramount with us. But education is also, that is what we do, and that's what we do well, and we want a chance to do it. Because we're taking these other roads and we're making gold out of rocks. What could we do if it was already we had gold? What could we make from the gold? We could make some fancy trinkets, couldn't we? So that's kind of the way we look at it. So, Board, I'd like to get some feedback from you.
Well, if I can just start, if that's okay with everyone. I appreciate you approaching the elephant that's not only in this room, but is in our entire community right now, and it is in communities all over the United States. It is not just us. I have been very proud of how we have handled things. I do want you to know, and I know you know, we know you are struggling with this, and you know we are. We have had so many sleepless nights and calling each other to see how each other's feeling. We are getting more emails in the last week or two than we have all year. Is that correct? This week, though, has been different. We've always tried to put our teachers and their feelings first because of how much we need them and how much the children need them. And this is about children. And so we know that they are definitely a huge piece to this. But in getting these emails, they are 5 to 1, and they are from parents. And the parents are begging, they're crying, they're pleading, they're saying their children are crying, they're in the floor crying. They've had to quit jobs. Some have had to take 2 jobs. And it's time for us to quit just thinking inwardly within our district, but thinking the whole community, the parents. And I have not received that many emails before. And I thought, those are the children of the parents that are in our community. 2 things are hot button: money and your children. And right now, the children are the hot button, and they are not feeling like they're getting the kind of education they need. I don't fault the teachers. I don't fault us. It is the situation, again, that everybody is finding themselves in. It's very disturbing. We do read them and we do share them. For those of you out there, we do. And we take them to heart. I did visit a half a dozen schools, and thank you, principals, for being so kind to me to allow me to, and a couple other board members also went. And it was not to critique, it was so I could understand. I do have grandchildren, and sometimes you're going to find out grandchildren you feel a need to be involved in even more than you did with your children. It's a different kind of love, but it is a love for them. And I went to a high school, a couple of middle schools, and a couple of elementary schools. And it was the first day for the second group. Those little fellows and the older ones, they were in their seats. They were happy. They had their masks on. They were doing great. The teachers were going crazy, but they were smiling. But I felt so bad for them, but they were not complaining. But I thought, especially when I saw one little boy jump up and down, and being a mom, I knew what that meant. And pretty soon, he pulled his pants down and went running to the bathroom. And you had to laugh because he was trying so hard to hang in there. But I appreciate you letting me see. And on my way home, I thought, they're happy. And then I thought, yeah, they're happy because they're back in school. And that's why they're happy. It felt normal. And so as soon as we can, for the sake of the children and the teachers and the parents, I would love for your team to work as hard as possible. And I know a lot of it's beyond your control, but with transportation, with food service, whatever you need to do so that when that time comes, and I hope it's much sooner than later, we will be ready to welcome those children. That's my 2 cents. Does anybody else?
Yes, I know we have all, I have appreciated the conversations and emails from parents, some sharing their positive experiences, which is good to hear, but I've been very concerned about the ones who have had a hard time with the hybrid method. And what concerns me more is the students who we are not hearing from, and those are our at-risk students. And they were struggling in the spring when we started this. They are probably now farther behind than they were, and I worry that they don't have someone speaking for them, someone emailing us to say, this is my issue, this is what my child's doing, this is not working for me. But I think we need to get back to the reason we are all here, and that is the education of our children, and we need to make a change.
Ms. Robinson, I'd like to speak if I could. I agree with everything that's been said. And we all know that I think everyone on this board, that was the ultimate goal, was to go back face to face. Of course, we wanted to, we want to do it when it's safe for both our teachers, our students, and of course, we think about the families at home, that our students could possibly take things back to elderly grandparents or family members at home. We think about that as well. So I think that's all important things. And, you know, the thing about it is piggybacking on what Lisa said, we've got so many things that our students are missing out on academically, socially, everything, all these little things that a school district teaches. As we've said so many times before, we're a family, and we're a family not only as our district people and us working together, but our kids are part of our family too. So, and we bring them in and we teach them and we treat them like our own, and we teach them all those things that they need that some of them possibly don't have the opportunity to learn at home. And so you think about all of those things when you're thinking about this stuff, and it's been a real tough road for all of us, I think, trying to make all these decisions and hash all this out and make sure we did the right things. But all of that being said, my personal opinion, with what Ms. Robinson said, we need to get back sooner than later. We need to do what we need to do to get those kids, those babies, our babies, back into the classroom, learning face-to-face, and teaching them in a surrounding that is structured and what they're needing socially, mentally, physically, and academically. And I would like to see, I'm going to go a little stiffer with that, what Ms. Robinson said. I would like to see our team, which is a fantastic team, and you know, we've always praised everything you've done, because everything that you do is all based on numbers and what is the right thing for our students and our faculty and staff. But I would like to see y'all sit down and work this out. I want our kids back in school, and I think that if we give it 3 weeks, that would be the 19th of October. I think that is a doable time to try to get them back in school, or to get them, not try, to get them back in school, and to give our food service, our buses, our teachers, our parents, our community members, all time to make all the adjustments that they need, but they've got to have a date. So I think it's time we set a date so that everybody knows what to work towards, what they can work towards, and what they're going to need to do so they can get everything together. So when we go back on the 19th, everybody's ready, our kids are excited, our parents are excited, our teachers are excited, and we can do what we do best, and that is to teach our students and love our students. So I challenge you and your staff to look at that and to make that happen as closely and as quickly as we can.
Ms. Hughes, thank you.
I'm not going to repeat everything that's been said, because it's all true. Y'all have done a fantastic job. Y'all know that I have stood by the model of the fact that our kids need to be in school. I still stand by that. I was trying to clarify with Mr. Pye before this meeting. At the last meeting, we said that we had 2 weeks of hybrid, and by going the 2 weeks of hybrid, that then we would be able to move into the next session without having to wait any longer. All right, this is the second week of hybrid. I do understand that there has to be time to make arrangements for buses, lunches, those kind of things. I would go with the 12th, but I won't go with the 9th. I don't see going off another week. Everybody's got their feet wet now. Like Ms. Robinson said, we have got tons and tons of phone calls and emails saying, please, please stand up for us. Please say, let our kids go back to school. We've lost jobs, or I'm having to go to work at 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon because I have to stay home with my children. And I mean, just over and over and over, just so many stories we've all heard. We've all heard that. And sooner than better, I mean, sooner than later is like you've all said, is where we need to be. And this is the second week of hybrid, and I would say give them next week to get adjusted and start back. I've stood by that. I'm dealing with a child at home right now. I have a third grader, grandchild. I'm dealing with his everyday situation. He's not a brain surgeon, but I tell you what, he's smart. He's smart enough to know how to goof off when everybody else is. And he's smart enough to know how to play the game. He knows what he has to do, and he does it. It's not face-to-face. A teacher, y'all know I was a teacher for 30 years, a teacher has to be in the classroom. She has to be in control of what's going on. She has to be able to look them in the eye. She needs to be able to discipline them, focus with them, give them to learn. If you can't focus, you can't comprehend what's being taught. And Mr. Pye, I know I'm basically talking about elementary because that was my thing. And I know there's a lot of logistics, a lot more logistics in middle and high school. That, like you said, with the overcrowding and the big, all that, I mean, I don't doubt that and question that whatsoever. And maybe you have to start with just elementary. But I think that our kids need back in school after next week. I stuck by it. I'm going to stick by it now. I love every one of y'all here. I support everything everybody does. I support our team, your team, you. I support this board. I believe in y'all. But right now, these kids are on my heart. And one of them's mine. So I know what I'm saying. And all of those people are standing outside about 5 days, I didn't look close enough so I could call anybody by name, but I do know that had to be some of them that's contacted some of us. We've got to listen. And this is nothing against the teachers. The teachers are working their butts off, Mr. Pye. The teachers are, it's not their fault. They're doing it. But they're one person. But you know, you're doing a little bit of virtual, and you're doing a little bit of hands-on, you're doing a little bit. Please, Mr. Pye, please listen to us and put our kids back in school. Thank you.
Thank you.
First, I want to thank Mr. Pye for bringing this to us this evening and giving us really a heartfelt view of what the Cabinet's going through, which all of us are going through the same thing. All of the parents, all of the teachers, everybody in DD2 is going through this together, and we'll get through it together. But I just appreciate you bringing all this information to us, and we know that you're working to try to recalculate or refigure, a way for us to get the students back in school. I too believe that they are missing, and we need them back so that they can catch up. It's been, 6 months plus, probably 7 months by the time we go back. But, I think we had a very good plan, but I think just like this virus is constantly changing, everybody's adapting. You got to be flexible, and that's something that we've said the whole time. We've got to be flexible. I was talking to another board member the other day, and I know half the folks out there say face-to-face and half the folks out there say virtual or continue with the hybrid model. There is no way for us to please everyone, but we got to do what's best for everybody. And that's why we were put in this position to make those decisions. And I just really appreciate Mr. Pye and his cabinet and his staff and his administrators and his teachers giving us the information so that we can make the best decision for all of our students.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchum. Anybody else? Mr. Farnsworth?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Crosby, thank you for your passion. We don't get that a lot up here, so I do appreciate that. I want you to know. I think the balancing act for me, and what I go back to, and I've spoken to some other board members, we've been in this for 4 weeks. It feels like 6 months.
2 years.
It's 2 years. It feels like forever, right? And I think we have to remember, we just finished the 3rd week. We're now into our 4th week. 2 weeks of e-learning to going into the 2nd week of hybrid. In brutal honesty, and it's already been said, right? For a large subset of our population in Dorchester District 2, the plan and the model that we laid out is not working. And I think it's okay to say that, right? That's nobody's fault. I'm looking at the folks here. I'm looking at Mr. Pye. It's not our administrator's fault. It's not our teacher's fault. It's not your fault. It's nobody's fault that it's not working. I think what we've seen are the unintended consequences of where we're at today, right? I wouldn't expect a teacher who is in their classroom or in their house, wherever they're at, they're not in their homes, but wherever they're at their schools teaching, I would not expect an educator to see the child at the breakfast restaurant trying to do their e-learning from the restaurant because their mom is having to work 2 jobs and the kid is going crazy with the hundreds of distractions behind them at this restaurant, trying their best to do e-learning. It's nobody's fault. It's not that teacher's fault that's trying to teach that kid, but that kid is falling behind. So we've got a problem, right? We have got to get the train on the tracks to right that problem. I think, again, looking at where we're at, I'm worried that we've gone back to what we were looking like in the spring. And I think everybody across the state agrees. And again, that's nobody's fault. It's a really bad situation. It's the worst poker hand you can get, and you're trying to make the best of it. And we're trying to make do, but we're losing our kids. We are back to this springtime method of learning, and it's just not working. For a large subset of our population, it's not working. And so I think when there is one kid that's impacted from an education perspective, that's why we're all concerned. That's why I think we're all saying pretty much the same thing. I'm going to give you some of the flip side, right? Let me stay on that topic first. I look at the state. It's open. Whether we want to accept that or not, whether we like it or not, the state is open. The stores are open, Walmart, Lowe's, restaurants are open. I had the good fortune to go to Universal Studios a few weeks ago in Florida. Universal Studios was at capacity. It's open. I guarantee it's open. And are there challenges? Absolutely. But everything else is getting back to normalcy, and we're kind of in this quasi-open state. And my concern is the risk of leaving kids behind is outweighing the risks of what we're seeing with this potential virus. And I can't, I want to say I can't sleep with that, but on the other hand, and this is why it's a challenge, because everybody's just like, just do it. I can't live in my heart of hearts. If something bad happens to one of our staff members or our kids, holy crap. I can't live with that either. So it's I want folks to understand when they say that it should be a very easy decision. Just do it. Go back on the 12th, go back on the 19th, whatever it is, just do it. It is not an easy decision. Put yourselves in our seats. I can't even tell you, Mr. Robbins said it, the sleepless nights, the stress, like the physical stress, it's unbelievable. The last point I will make, and as we move, I'll make 2 more points. As we move forward, I think we also need to think about, from a teacher's perspective, right? I told you, we've got to get this train on the tracks back to face-to-face. I don't know what that date is. I'm going to rely on Mr. Pye. I'm going to rely on his team. But I'm of the sound mindset that we need to get the train on the tracks to do that in a safe and healthy manner to get our kids back in school face-to-face 5 days a week sooner than later, right? When we do that, the logistics and the downstream effects, the unintended consequences that will have on our educators and our teams, it's a lot. I live with an educator. It's going to be a lot, right? I know that will be a burden. So again, I go back to what you got to find a balance. You got to find a balance. And again, I would throw that back to Mr. Pye. And you tell me, I think it probably makes sense. We've had some dates thrown out. We've had some planning discussions. We've had some discussion. To me, I think it probably makes sense for us to reconvene possibly next week. I think next Monday would probably be a fair date for us to reconvene. That gives you time to work with your team, hearing what we've all said now tonight, to come up with the solution. We've outlined the problem. We need you to come back to us with the potential solution and see if we can all get behind that and get on board with it. So again, that would just be my recommendation, if we could look at next Monday evening. I think that puts some dates out there. Folks know that we're going to be looking at this seriously. It gives you an opportunity to plan, and we will have some very definitive pathways forward from that. So thank you for the time.
Mr. Guthrie?
So I agree with everybody here, and I think everybody wants face-to-face as soon as possible, and I think that we have the tools and the team that do it the best way possible, and you entrust us with student safety, and we always put students first. That's number one. So anything that we can do to help you through the process and make sure we decided we're going to stick with the plan. I think we've done a good job of implementing plans as best as we can. But again, if there's any flexibility within following the plan to get students back as soon as possible, I think we should sort of move forward with that. And then, like I said, or like Justin said, I think meeting again next week would be productive just to see the best way forward for that and to make sure we have buy-in from all our administrators and make sure the whole team's involved in getting us back as soon as possible.
Thank you, Mr. Guthrie. I know I just taught 4K, but I taught it for 20 years, and just Christmas break, it would take a week just to get the kids back to being where they were before Christmas break. So I know when this happens, I'm foreshadowing, parents are going to have to be patient with their teachers and with everybody, because there will be, as you said, unintended consequences of having everybody back. But be patient as it happens, and within a couple weeks it's going to be like normal again. Let's pray for that anyway. This has been the most emotional thing I think our board has ever, is that right? Has ever had to deal with, because there's so many unknowns. So thank all of you for your comments. And Mr. Pye, do you have anything else?
I think Ms. Crosby had her hand
Ms.
up.
Crosby?
I just know that all of y'all have, from the beginning, we all have wanted our kids back in school. I appreciate all of y'all's comments tonight and supported that. And I'll go back to what we said to begin with. You know, the sooner the better. But I'm so grateful for this board for coming together on this. And I thank you.
Well, I appreciate the comments too. You know, we work for our school board, and of course y'all have made it so that it doesn't appear to be that way. We are a team, Team Dorchester. We do have we agree to disagree. Y'all have been most supportive through this process when you've been very trusting of us, because you don't know even what we know, and you know more than the average person knows, because we try to inform you. There's just so much out there, and there's so much unknown. The media, 1 minute, you know, is on one side, the next minute they're on the other. It's become ridiculous. And then the school districts that have opened up, some have fared okay, some have hidden how bad they didn't do, and there's others who have miserably failed and had to back up and punt. There's nothing like jumping through the hoops so fast that then you have to go back. Going back would trouble some people. I believe some people would be out to get us if we walked out that door. You said you were going back to something. They're through with that. They don't want to see that again. So it pays to be somewhat patient. But as Ms. Tupper said, we don't have a lot of time with certain groups of children. All children deserve an equal opportunity to learn. Many of our children started off several years behind in kindergarten, and these types of things only make them get further behind, and they will not be the productive citizens that we would like to have turn out from our high schools if they even graduate. And a lot of them don't have the home structure to help them. They don't have the grandmother to help the grandchild. They don't have other situations for them. Parents are working 3 jobs. Young children, very young children, are home by themselves. Some of our children are magnificent, that they still try to navigate it. But what an obstacle for a young child to have to face. Having been a teacher many years ago, it's hard to get kids of all ages to stay focused, short attention spans, and they want you to sing and dance and stay on your head to keep their attention. A teacher cannot do that by way of computer. I know we want to teach these children the skills. The whole point of us being an E-district is so that when we have a hurricane or some natural disaster, we don't have to make those days up. We will immediately go in the mode of learning with the e-learning. Hopefully it won't be but 3 or 4 days. If it turns out to be like Hugo, 3 weeks, we would be prepared, and we would not have to make those days up if they were instructionally sound. That was the whole point that got us here. Little did we know we were going to have to use it way before a possible hurricane. And my prayers at night, and please don't let one of those things happen while we're in this transition, because that could really waylay things even more. So they're just things out of our hands that we just can't control. But as long as we're together, we know that there is not a perfect solution. We have an issue where you have to balance health with academics. You really can't prioritize one or the other, even though up to this point we have highly prioritized the health piece. And I think we've done a very effective job of that. But now I need to make sure the other side of the balance is also there, and that we can make sure we stand tall, that given what we've been given, we've done as well as anybody could do under the circumstances. And I like to think that, and I've seen nothing to the contrary. I differ from one of you said, I do not think we have failed. I don't see that, and I'm in all these schools. And if you had to see when you visit these schools, when you walked in the room, you think it was a perfect learning situation. But you caught them at certain times. If it was in the morning, by the afternoon, they're flaked out. A lot of kids are. They would be in school. When the parents tell us, my child won't sit still, they're wiggling all on the table, and they won't listen to me, the parents are saying this. What do they think when they come to school and there are 25 of them in the same room? The poor teacher's trying to teach everything, and this same wiggling's going on because they're kids. And so we have those same issues. It's just magnified to the parents because they're now being forced to see it. They're being forced to teach, which they're not skilled to do. They're missing their jobs. And they're missing their time that they need for their family time to do the things that parents do for their families, because it's now all consumed every possible minute. It's not loving your child, reading to your child, playing with your child. It's fussing at your child about staying on that computer and getting that full thing done now. I mean, right this minute. So it's causing a lot of those types of feelings that we hear about, and we don't wish for that. We want our children to be healthy, emotionally, physically, and certainly academically, and they all are intertwined at some point. We don't want any child to feel defeated too early on. So it is of utmost importance. Like I said, we're already ahead of you as far as looking at those things. I knew this was coming, and I've had a bad weekend of it. And so I came in loaded for bear today. I don't know what makes that different from any other Monday, but we were very focused today in the group, which I could just see it in their eyes and their voices. Everybody's feeling the same kind of stress, and it's like we have got to see what we can do to dig as deep as possible, make sure we're able to tell and prove why something might not be done. Not just because we thought it was the easy way out or this is going to be the safest way. What else can we still do to be teachers and educators? What can we do to guarantee that happens while we at the same time provide a safety net for our children? This social distancing is going to be the issue. I don't think there's any other real issue, because if people felt safe, I know our teachers would be fine. I feel heavy majority would be okay with that. It's the fact that they know when large numbers get in their room, the safety goes out the window, and I think that's the issue that I think is very real and has been from day one. Like I said, we may have had some people come over to the other side of thinking after trying other things and realizing, I'm a good teacher, but I can't do my best. I'm giving my best, and my best is not what I used to give it my best. And I want a chance to do something differently. I'm hearing that a lot, but there's still that fear factor of my personal health, the health of my family, the conditions that my spouse may have or someone else in the family that I want to take home. And that's true of some of the people in this room that have shared that with me. We've got a lot of people who are very fearful of what might happen. And so we have to put it together. We will do it. We'll talk through it. I will work with my principals as early as tomorrow, so they can expect for us to try to have a meeting Tuesday or Wednesday. Probably not the Wednesday, or maybe Thursday, but I would like you to get some feeling tone from your teachers. How do you feel this is working? Do you feel this is doing what we want it to do? What can we do to make what we're doing better? Is there anything we've not done that should make this the best it can be? I'm going to do a survey. This is no time to do it now. I already know the results of the survey. I would like to do a survey that a community member brought me, Mr. Weaver, has sent me that is used in his organization. Of course, it was for adults or whatever, or older students, but it can be applied here and where we can maybe get a reading on how was the different models that we're using. So how effective were they, so that when we do have a hurricane and we have to go back to it, I want to learn from the things we've done. I don't ever plan to have another pandemic in my life. However, we don't know what tomorrow holds, and and we may be forced to go back to something like that. So how can we come back and reinvent it to make it even better if we have to do it ever again, which I hope we don't. But I think lessons learned while it's still fresh would be a good time to really put that together as we focus on how are we going to get back to as normal. It's never going to be normal as it was before. There's a side effect, and our teachers probably would shoot me if they had a chance when I say this, but I think our teachers, unfortunately, they were forced in the technology age. Many were there, many were not. But some, it's really taken its toll. It was too much too soon and too radical for some people, and that doesn't mean they're less effective than someone else. But others who like all this technology, is just they're making the most of it. So we're going to have to pull from them future trainings and things. How can we instill that same kind of stuff with all teachers? And let's learn from that. So when we come back to the classroom, we will not have these workbooks and work pages and all the things we depended on in the past. We can use this wonderful technology to get things done faster in a more orderly way, and faster for teachers to check the students' work and progress. It's a way that this could improve our approach at the end of the day. Certainly wasn't planned that way, but through experience, we learn a lot.
I just wanted to ask, because I don't want everyone to be panicking. So we are going to you're going to do some investigating and
Lot.
My question is, we have the virtual model and we have the hybrid model. Right now, we are discussing the hybrid model returning face-to-face. Maybe you have flexibility, or maybe that information will follow. I don't want parents who are getting on the virtual model to think they're going to come back
The
face-to-face.
virtual model stays
or-
the same. We said that we would, any real crisis situation, we always look at individual situations. We always
that will still
have
be
attendance
applied.
errors, everything else. However, around the end of the first semester, we said we would look to see, because we have to move the teacher along with students. You can't move 50 kids without moving 2 teachers. And, who are they going to be and where? And my luck, it never fits the exact number. But, and it could be a large number if we get to do this in mid-October, then I can see certainly by Christmas, I can't imagine there won't be a large list of people wanting to come back to that, and hopefully we will be at that low rate that we can afford to have the larger classes and feel more comfortable with it, especially if a vaccine or something were to come out anytime soon. That would help us. So anything's in our favor on that, if you know how you look at it. But we really can't. Virtual we can do all the way through, and we plan to offer that. You have to either do hybrid or face-to-face. They can't be commingled. So that's the issue. So we can't just take it. What this was is an intermediate step between virtual, blended, which we were doing for everybody on the e-learning. Then we began to have some face-to-face. Then we were moving to the full face-to-face. This is how we were progressing, and this is pretty standard all across the country. We didn't invent this. This is a pretty good model for many school districts to use. And they're all faced with the same problems we are. They all want to go back to face-to-face, and how can you get there and feel safe about it? Because safety is, you're right, we don't want anybody's demise in any way, shape, or form, or pain to be a result of any decision we make, even though it wasn't direct to them, it's going to mean a lot to us. I would have a very difficult time. It would upset me greatly, because I would feel responsible, even though I've talked myself into saying we're doing it for the good of the majority. But everybody has their own individual situation, and we don't want to lose sight that there's some real situations out there that I can't fix, but people are looking for me to work around them, so they're kept safe. And that may not be as possible as we'd like. So, but I just appreciate the conversation, and we will be working, and we'll come back with all the issues, and I'll have my departments, they can be present to say if they're ready and what they need, and timeline with it. Looking at the date that you gave us is probably feasible. It gives us a week to prepare, and then we've been giving the 2 weeks notice, which I would like to continue, because you heard the departments last week saying they need 2 weeks turnaround time. And so I want to keep that up, but I think the parents have to know there's something at the end of the tunnel.
Yep.
And our teachers need to know, are you on or are you off? What are you going to do here? People need to have a chance to weigh this with their personal situations and make any choices that they have to make, and give us the notice that we need to know so we can continue working too. And who knows, the next conversation may be totally different, but it changed drastically in the last 2 weeks, but you never know. And I appreciate Mr. Farnsworth, you making the comment that you made at the end, the other side. That's what I live with every day. There is another side. And I sit there and I'm torn, because I see both sides. And if I were in the classroom, I know I'd see even greater, because I want to teach the children, teach them well. But I'm very health conscious about this, and I would worry about my personal self, so I can see the teachers in the same situation. And they deserve to come to work and feel safe. They deserve that. Our children deserve it.
Mr. Pye, if this is Monday, so that would give you this week, come back to us on Monday with a decision, and then so that would be 2 weeks, so we could possibly start on the 12th.
No, it'd be, next week is the 7th.
We're going to have a meeting next Monday.
Right.
Monday,
Yeah.
then
But I mean,
we
that
can
gives
see
him
if
a
we
week
have,
to talk to
we're
his
gonna
staff.
see if we have a proposal. If we have a proposal, then if the board likes the proposal, or we have to do some tweaks, we would announce right then that in 2 weeks we move to the other. So it is 3 weeks,
What,
the 19th.
can this not be counted as one of the weeks, since you'll be making that decision this week? Can this not be counted the week, and then
It's up to
next week would
y'all.
be the 2 weeks? And, I mean, we're just putting it off and putting it off, and I was just trying
No,
to
we're
help
not
you.
putting it off. This is a big decision. There's, half of our district don't want us to talk about this at all. So half want it and half don't. So you have to weigh all things in all respect for the people. This is going to be a hard pill to swallow either way. Because if we don't move forward in October, parents are going to just give up on the district. If we move too quickly, our teachers are going to give up on the district. And we can't afford either one of them.
It seems like this is a big move that is going to require a lot of adjustments, as if you haven't already gone through enough. I think it is prudent to give a week of organizing, thinking through all the issues that there could be, making sure that cafeteria and everything can run smoothly and has plans in place. And then if we can give the parents by the 19th, we are going face-to-face in the safest method that we can, and this is the date. I think that is what they need to hear. And so I'm comfortable with the 19th, so that we can have a very thorough plan.
Well, it would give us, at least from the teacher's point of view and the students, we delayed school 3 weeks before we even opened it. We did 2 weeks e-learning, which was the minimum. That's 5 weeks. And we've got, if we do this 3 weeks, is that 8 weeks? Is that what we come up to?
Mm-hmm.
So that's 8-week period that we could have started like a neighboring county on that other date, and we've gone 8 weeks. And so I would think that people would see that as a valid area of trying to get the health situation back and the numbers like they should be, that we've made an honest effort to do that, and it'll be up to the board when we do get here. Are we close enough? They're starting to give us the data now in the schools. Didn't they change it from Mondays to Thursdays? So this Thursday will be a new report.
That'll be good for our Monday meeting then. You'll have that report.
Yes, so we'll have the latest ones.
Okay.
And then, like I said, then there'll be a chance to have 2 more before we actually open up, and hopefully 3 more reports. We'll be back the best we've ever been, and low, medium at least, to give you, some idea how workable this could be.
Well, I think it's important that we listen and respectfully listen to the people who is doing all the research and knowing what their departments need and what it's going to take to put us back safely and securely, and make sure that when we do go back, that
We don't have to go back.
we don't have anything to worry about. It's going to be a smooth transition, and the parents are going to be ready for it. So, I mean, I think it's important that we listen to them and we give them, your staff, your group that you meet with. Cabinet that you meet with. I can't even think of the name. But your cabinet that you sit down and you make these decisions. We need to listen to them. I mean, that's what they're there for. So I think that's important. But also I wanted to mention that a few weeks ago, our state came up with some new CARES money. And I don't know if you've researched that or not, but then just as late as the 23rd, the Governor McMaster put in another request for some additional CARES money. And it was approved on the 23rd by our delegation or by our State House representatives and sent back to the governor for his signature. So on the 23rd of September. So there's even more CARES money.
Did he say what he's going to do with it? He's going to give it to colleges? He's going to give it to charter schools?
It's for, there is a section in there for higher education, but there is a section in there just for K-12 to get our students back in school. And that's what it's used for. It's for getting them back in school, supplying the supplies that we need to make sure they're safe when they go back to school. But it is to encourage safe social distancing and putting our kids back in school. So that may be something, both of those, that you might want to look at, because like I said, that last one just came out on the 23rd.
I just got something about it this afternoon.
Yes.
Now, along those same lines, earlier in the year, it came out in some list that Dorchester District 2 did not participate in the state bulk buying. Well, that's because we needed this stuff ahead of time. The state's never been known to have things on time. And they just simply said they were going to do bulk buying at a cheaper rate. We might want to get with them. We went out and did our own and got things on state contract price and less. So we would not have saved any money had we done it with them. However, as the supplies were given out, the governor announces that they're going to pay for the supplies. Well, here we bought our own, because every memo we got said, we're buying it, you will pay for it. The state's not paying for it. We're just going to help you lower the price. So we opted not to do it. Well, now I'm ticked because we didn't do it. I called, we made a fuss about it, and they said anything that we have that y'all want, which we have plenty left over, you can have. So we placed an order of everything we could use. So we got all that with no cost. Then I went to a meeting last week with Molly Spearman, and she announced that she had a pot of money that's just to be spent by December 31st on these things that we need to have, supplies, and that she had decided she wanted us to turn in everything that we had purchased with school district money, and her intention was to reimburse us for every bit of it. So at the end of the day, I got mine and then some, and we didn't have to pay for it, which frees our money back up for other CARES kinds of things, such as technology. The computers that we had in second grade were all the, what's those things called? Well, HP Stream? Not HP. They were? Okay, well, whatever it was. And they were the older model, and a lot of them are breaking. We've had a real issue with the second grade, but all the other grades seem to be fine once we get people using it properly. So we can use this CARES money that's being freed up, which we're doing, along with some Title IV money. We're going to take that money. We've got enough that we're buying all new computers for the second grade. So every student in Dorchester 2 has a state-of-the-art new computer, every single student, and those are being taken away. The new computers will not arrive until sometime in December. It's the earliest we can get them. But if we're back face-to-face, the second grade, I think, has so much to teach. I think they don't mind resting a little bit on the technology till we get it in December, second semester, and the kids can get back on and show us how well they remembered and what they can do. So I wanted to report that worked itself out, and so that's two problems we're able to solve because of the state going back, revisiting, giving us that money back to buy the computers.
All right, anybody else?
Madam Chair, just to make it official, I'd like to make a motion for the board to meet next Monday at 6 PM for further discussion about plans and proposals moving throughout this school year.
And is 6 o'clock appropriate time for everybody? A meeting, not a workshop. Is 6 o'clock okay? All right, I need a second. Ms. Crosby, any more discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand. Okay, then we'll meet next week at 6 o'clock right here.
Thank you.
Thank you. And now we will move to a different topic, and we have our Sedexa Food Service Director, Mr. Michael Zanni, and he is going to update us, and we are anxious to hear from him.
I wanted to let first and foremost know that how proud and appreciative Sedexa is to be the partner of DD2. That being said, my elephant in the room is actually waffles, not an elephant. Last Monday we had pictures of probably the most unflattering and incomplete picture of what wasn't a well thought out meal to begin with come together to cast a shadow on what should have been a great first day. Some of our schools weren't able to run the menu we hoped to do, and we had to make some changes deep into the planning process. To your point, is 2 weeks enough? Is 2 weeks from Monday enough? It takes a lot to change gears, and we got caught out, and I apologize for that. But what I really want to speak to is what we did after. On Monday, it became known, rightfully so, that we didn't hit the high notes that we should have. By Tuesday, my regional support from Sedexa was here to help, and they're still here, rethinking menu and process. By Wednesday, after we realized that our vendors couldn't support the menus we wrote, they were here to help us rewrite menus and make sure that we could be successful across elementary school, middle school, and high school. But mostly, who I want to speak to is our team. 150 plus hardworking folks who put these kids first every day, who are working harder than ever before to deliver 9,000 meals, not just make 9,000 meals, and all of that entails, and how appreciative I am of their effort and their talents and their care and concern. But we'll be moving forward. I think Tuesday was better than Monday. I think this Monday was better than last Monday, and we're going to continue to hit strides and find our stride as we move through the hardest model and hopefully into what becomes an easier model for everyone to be successful with. Happy to take some questions.
Mr. Zanni, I do have a question. Are you all having any complications with supplies?
Yeah, we're not alone. For instance, where we usually get sausage, that factory's closed due to COVID. So we had to find something else, and it was inconsistent from school to school even. When you're delivering 9,000 meals instead of serving 9,000 meals, you have to find the packaging. Every restaurant and school is got a higher need for packaging than they ever have because everyone is pursuing a model like this. And the time involved. You can't buy peaches already in a cup with a lid on it. You have to make that happen. So we are cupping, wrapping, heating, cooling, bagging, dragging, delivering, serving, retrieving every day. And that's A's and B's and AM's and PM's and out on the curb. And like I said, the work is hard. I'm blessed to have a team that embraces it and will run through a wall to make it happen. But it's not easy. So that's why increased coordination with our vendors, increased support from the company, an ounce of understanding from the district and the parents will help us through this and get to a point where this is a point of pride, and that's where I hope to get to.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I just want to make a comment. We were the recipients of those pictures, believe me, and from what I understand, they were very incomplete pictures, but it's okay. Nevertheless, they were pictures and they were quite disturbing. But I just want to let you know that since then, I have also been receiving pictures, and I have also been receiving phone calls and text, and I just got one right before the meeting started of ecstatic people that say the food is great, the food when it's received is hot, it's much better than what they had before. It's a more well thought out menu. And the thing about it is what makes me feel good about this. Number one, I know, when you get off to a bad start, it's kind of hard to recoup that. The bad first impression is not a good thing to happen, but we're on that uphill climb, and you're still not at your highest potential because you're still having to overcome all of these obstacles. So I'm very pleased with the reports that I'm getting at this point. And like I said, I just received 3 pictures right before the meeting started of what was for lunch and what was for breakfast today. And that the kids were loving the food, and some of the teachers and parents were even trying the food out for the kids. And I honestly even had a person send home some of the food for me to try so that I could see firsthand what it was like. And it's at my house right now waiting on me to try it when I get home. But that's right. But anyway, I want to commend you for working so hard and so diligently to try to overcome this bad first impression that was, I'm sure, beyond your control at that point, not knowing what you had, what you were working with. And this, again, is a situation that you're not used to dealing with either. So I think we need to take all of that into consideration. But thank you for everything that you're doing and your staff is doing to try to overcome this and to try to get nutritional food and hot food to our kids so that they can function to the best of their ability when we're trying to teach them. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hughes. I'll pass it on to my team.
Just a minute, Ms. Crosby.
I would like to tell you, if it's any relief, I had a picture sent to me today from Charleston County. It was a moldy lemon. I mean, it was half green. So just let you know you're not by yourself, and other people do have problems too. And we just appreciate, like Ms. Hughes said, all that y'all do. And we've had so many glitches in so many areas this year that we're taking it step by step and trying to overcome what we can. And we do thank you for trying to make that effort and bringing these extra people in to be sure it's done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I just want to say this. All of us grew up in a house when our mamas cooked for us, and didn't we get a bad meal once in a while?
I'll never tell her that.
Well, we
Yeah.
still loved them, but it happens sometimes. Thank you very much.
I want to say when this first happened, we immediately made contact with we're outsourcing the food service, so he's our liaison between the district and the company, and we see him. He attends all our meetings. He's there. We're not directly above him or whatever, but we work with the company. But Larry Wilson and Larry's in the back, and other members of the company are. So immediately we called management immediately, as well as we did him. What is going on here? We need an explanation of this. This shouldn't have happened, and this will not happen. And we understand why. We were pretty tough on him. It was a pretty tough day, wasn't it?
It's been a tough week.
But, like I said, I've received several comments from parents like the Clear that simply said what the hullabaloo is, that my children loved the meal and they thought it was wonderful. So I don't know what's going on. It's just there. And then, of course, all schools didn't serve that menu. See, that was another thing. It was not done in all the 25 kitchens. We had hamburgers, a real popular item, chicken nuggets. I mean, these are favorites among the kids, and they cleaned house in those schools, and we had great comments about that. So it wasn't everywhere. It was just one of those glitches, one of those things. And a lot of it is on supply, what they have, what they can get a hold to, what didn't come in on time that they have to prepare. So, but I think the whole thing was just make sure the menus could be something we're proud of. And if you're missing something, I gather in your business, just like in mine, you have to have a substitute. When the teacher's out, we have to have somebody to sub in the class. So that would be your accountability system is, what happens if the hamburger meat doesn't arrive? What do we serve? We have to have a backup. We can't just tell the children we're just going to give you the bread, the lettuce and tomato, and enjoy your meal. That's not going to cut it. And of course, all the way down through the years, we've run out of food many times in the lunchrooms in past years. There's always been some type of issue. with this. And of course, this is a difficult year, a new setting for you and for us. And so I commend your whole team for how quick you pulled it together and took the high road and said, this shouldn't happen, we will fix it. And I'm going to hold you to it because I know you're going to do it, because you said it and you've already proven thus far that you're a man of your word, and I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Board.
Thank you very much.
I will say one thing too. My little one came home and said he was happy he got to make his own taco. They got to build their own taco one day or whatever it
Nacho
was.
day. Yeah.
I don't know, but he just thought that was cool. They got to make their own. They got to build their own taco. That's what I heard.
Thank you so much.
But, and another thing, Mr. Pye, the fact that they saw that one picture, they didn't see the other side items that went with it, like the
That's true.
fruit and the things. There was more to that lunch than just that.
That's
There were
true.
other side items that were
That
not
is
shown.
important, that, all the requirements are always met. Sometimes it's nonsensical when you got celery sticks next to a waffle, but you got to have a vegetable if it's lunch. So, thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we would like to hear from our Director of Finance, Billy Saunders, as he gives us our financial report.
Good evening. I believe you have before you in your packet the balance sheet and revenue and expenditure statement for the general fund. The July 2020 report is the first of the new fiscal year. We're still operating with the same level of state funding at this time, since the state legislature did not pass the budget when they met last week. And they will not meet again until January. We are not sure what's going to happen with the state budget at this point. We don't know if we're going to receive new money or if there will be cuts. That remains to be seen. We just have our fingers crossed, and we're hoping for the best. If you look at the balance sheet, there's really not that much change. If you look at the comparative, balance sheet and statement of revenue and expenditures, there's not that much changes between this year and last year. There are a few items, we're right on budget with everything. There are a few items that kind of, I might mention, that are timing differences. If you look at the statement of revenue and expenditures, you'll see where it's got like a negative $493,000. That's just that was a 60-day accrual where we book the next year's 60 days of revenue, and then the following year you reverse it. Normally that's not done till later in the year, but it was done in July this year, so that's why you see that. So other than just a few timing differences, everything's on track and looking good on the statement of revenue and expenditures. One thing I would point out that is significant, if you look at the fund balance, the beginning of year fund balance, has increased from fiscal year 19 to fiscal year 2020 by a little over $3 million. That is a result of operations for fiscal year 20. We are working with our auditors to wrap up the fiscal year 20 books, and we did capture some savings from last year due to the schools being closed. The auditors are planning to present the final audited numbers to you at the end of October. And this fund balance, the increase in fund balance, that's a good thing. We're still within our 15% limitation that's required by the state law, and it'll also help provide a cushion in the event that they do cut our funding. Hopefully they won't, but just in case, that will help us out. Other than that, there's not a lot of activity for the month of July to point out. You do have your food service statements. There's not a lot of activity there because the school year was delayed, so there's not a lot of activity in July to report. So there'll be more on that later in the year as the school year progresses. Since we are almost complete with our fiscal year 20 closeout, and there was really no activity for many months with schools closed. We are not providing the school balances report this month. We feel that the August report that we present next month would have more accurate balances that would reflect the proper carryover and startup balances. And at this time, I'd be glad to answer any questions you may have regarding the financial statements.
I don't have a question. I'd just like to make a motion for us to approve this financial report as information.
Thank you, Ms. Hughes, and Ms. Crosby just seconded it. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand. It's unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Saunders.
Thank you very
Appreciate
much.
that.
And so we also have for your consideration two resolutions. Our financial advisor, Compass Municipal Advisors, has presented the board with recommendations to approve the two resolutions for bond refundings. Market conditions are favorable at this moment for the district to save approximately, $12 to $13 million on our Series 2014A general obligation bonds. Compass is also recommending, in relation to our Series 2015B bonds, that we ask for approval of a resolution for those bonds to be refunded for additional savings when the market is favorable. And so if I could read, do y'all want to entertain those individually, I assume?
That would be nice. Thank
All right.
you.
So the first resolution in summary would be an adoption of resolution authorizing the issuance and sale of not exceeding 145 million taxable or tax-exempt general obligation bonds to refund the outstanding Series 2014A bonds.
Thank you. We need a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept that resolution for the taxable advance refunding of Series 2014A bonds.
Okay, we have a motion, and Mr. Guthrie has seconded it. It sounds wonderful for discussion purposes. Sounds great. All those in favor, raise your hand. Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you.
Very much. Adoption of resolution authorizing the issuance and sale of not exceeding 45 million taxable or tax-exempt general obligation refunding bonds to refund all or a portion of the outstanding Series 2015B bonds.
I make a motion to accept that
Okay,
resolution.
thank you. And Mr. Mitchum has seconded it. Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand. It is unanimous.
Okay, thank you very much. That concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Okay, we will now hear from our facilities and construction directors, Mr. Tony Souls and Mr. Willie Murphy.
Good evening.
Good evening.
You have the complete report. That list is getting shorter and shorter. That doesn't mean we're running out of work. That just means we've got a lot of stuff in the hopper we're getting ready to crank up. Well, we are wrapping up some stuff. The Oak Brook Middle School bus depot expansion, we've got the certificate of occupancy. They're running at full capacity out there now. We do have some minor punch list items that we're taking care of, and we hope to be totally complete by the end of October with that project. The other thing, the doors for the greenhouses at Ashley High School have been a nemesis of mine for the past probably 6 months, ever since the last hurricane. And we finally got some doors. Apparently we don't know what kind of greenhouse we have, because the doors they sent us the second time were wrong. So we had to hire somebody to come out to rework the greenhouse to make these doors work, because we weren't going to send these things back. So we're waiting for a third-party inspection and get that thing off the books too. So hopefully we'll get that third-party inspection done this week. Just a side note, we've been doing some work at the stadium. Actually, the Southern Magnolia Events Group has been doing some work at the stadium. I heard some, other than the rainy part, I heard some pretty good feedback from the stadium on Friday night. They looked great. They did some pressure washing and some painting. They did some upgrades to the ventilation in the restroom facility there, so there's some positive feedback coming from that. I just wanted to pass that along.
I actually went there Friday to look, and it was so nice to go in the bathroom, and it felt nice and cool, and everything looked clean, not just in the bathroom, but all over. They're really doing a good job.
The field took a beating Friday night. And
I bet.
It's going to take a couple weeks to get that back to a good playing surface. But hopefully before the next, I think the JVs play there next week, and I hope
It looked good on television.
this week, I think. So it should be back on track for good stuff.
It looked good on television.
It looked good on television,
It
too,
looked
he
good on
said.
television.
It did look great.
You can
I
see the
watched it.
new administrative office, the new windows and all. It just looks so much better with those old treehouse things taken out where they filmed the stuff, the two booths, all that taken out. It just real well. I know the future plans is to relocate the end zone stands, like in some of our other ball fields that need additional
Yes, sir.
stands, the ones that are fine and we can use. And then that'll be all open there, and I think that's the eventually that's supposed to be the locker room there. Whether they put concession there or not, I don't know, but it's going to look really nice looking out from the stadium, seeing that sitting here in the roof, and then seeing the district office building. And when we get the parking lot all done, it's going to be magnificent. Because all the front parking, we're doing all in front of the school, everything has to be redone. That horseshoe, and of course, all down by the back of the stadium. For Sumner Elementary, it's going to have a new bus loop. The buses will no longer be on Main Street. All but parents and students will be unloaded on the back of the building. And it's about time we finally address that age-old problem. So our kids there
We're
be
going to
safe.
discuss that in new business, Mr. Pye.
Okay, good.
We're going to talk about the parking situation around there, but that's all I have. If you have any questions,
Anybody questions?
I was just wondering, I know how beautiful the bleachers and all look now that it's been power washed. Wonder how much COVID they washed off. All the years that stuff has been building up.
with that,
Okay, thank you. Mr. Murphy?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Today is right at 8 days away from the original scheduled completion date on the Rawlings facility, on the renovation for the new district office. As I spoke with you on the 22nd of June, the last time I was with you, we were estimating at that time the actual completion date would be sometime mid to late June, mid to late March of next year. So we currently have a schedule that has been revised by the contractor that is currently under review to verify, actual information and events that will extend the date until the 22nd of March. So we were estimating approximately right based on the information we knew. It's very important to all of us to make sure that we do everything we can to ensure that that March deadline is met. I've also spoke to you in the past about the surprisingly good condition that I thought the building was in terms of, being a masonry building that was 100 years old with load-bearing interior wood walls and floor systems and crawl spaces. And I'm still very surprised at that. But the kinds of things that we've run into, in my opinion, were very unusual. And those are the kinds of things that are causing the schedule delays for the most part. And again, we're continuing to evaluate the schedule. We evaluate the change orders that come in on a regular basis. We communicate all those things back to the district on a regular basis and have regularly established communication to review the change orders and the cost and get those things approved and try to keep things moving. So again, our goal here is to meet that March 22nd deadline and also to make sure that the cost of the project stays within the limits of funding that you have available for it. Staffing on the project has been averaging about 21 since the beginning of August. And again, we've heard no reports of any COVID-related illnesses or anything on the job sites or any delays of that nature, which to me is kind of surprising considering how close these guys were. The high staffing count for the contractor was 28 that I've observed, and the highest overall from the beginning of the construction was sometime prior to COVID. It was around 33. So those staffing numbers are a little lower than I'd like to see them, and we have communications about that sort of thing as well in our project meetings on a regular basis. The oldest main portion of the building up front on the north end side of the building is probably where most of the delays are occurring. So things are moving along well in the east wing, which is the one closest to the stadium, as well as the west wing, which is the one closest to the main road. Gypsum board and metal studs are basically complete in the east wing and about halfway complete in the west wing. So painting will begin in those spaces probably within the week. Floor finishes, and that means all the rough in is done as well. So most of the mechanical systems and things like that are roughed in and essentially ready to hook up for final startup and everything toward the end of the project. Windows around the east wing as well as the front north side of the building are essentially complete with glazing in them. If you drive along Main Street, you'll see that the windows on that wing are not complete yet. There's nothing in there. But that's one of the areas where we found window lintels that were not suitable to support the new installations, and that was a surprise that we uncovered. So we're having to deal with that before we can actually install the windows. But that progress should be moving forward in the very near future. That's really all I have to report to you, but I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Does anybody have any questions? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Murphy. We
Okay.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, board members, if you're okay to do that in open session, Ms. Elena Fenari, our Director of Personnel, has our recommendations and resignations for 20 and 2021. I need a motion to approve.
I make that motion.
Thank you. Mr. Guthrie, second. Ms. Tupper, second. Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand. Thank you. Okay, and now we'll move on to board committee reports, and I will turn that over at this time to, let's see, who's doing it first? I think Mr. Guthrie, Policy Committee.
All right. So the policy committee has for your consideration second and final reading on temporary board policy ADD face covering.
Okay, and it's up there. Are there any questions before we make a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept second reading of policy ADD as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Farnsworth. A second? Ms. Yu, second. Any discussion?
I would like to just mention one thing. I don't have anything against the policy, but I've had quite a few emails discussing the fact that the kids are having to wear the mask all day. Like 6 hours without being able even to sit at their desk and take them down. Is that acceptable? I mean, I would hope so. But I know with my little one, he said that the teacher said if you're in your desk, that you can take it down. So I just wondered if that, that was just some more emails that I keep getting, but anybody got anything on that?
Do you want to address that? I'm just saying, I've yet to see a child without a mask on and enjoying it. The boys all think they're playing cowboy and Indians with this stuff, and they're wearing the mask. It's like they're dressed up for Halloween. The children just are, I can't get over it. I'm more worried about the adults keeping them on than the children. But
There was
the
just
kids
emails
have
that I
done
got.
better than I've ever imagined, especially our high school kids.
So we have our face covering plan in place for students, staff, and visitors, and we wanted to start off with some more strict, procedures until we came back full force to see, how the case numbers were looking, how our students were handling them. We do have some mask breaks built in for them. Obviously, anytime they're eating or drinking, when they're socially distanced and they're participating in gym or recess, they are allowed to remove them as long as they're 6 feet apart. And again, we felt like it was better to start off with more strict protocols and kind of see how things were going, and certainly we can always adjust and loosen those as we feel appropriate as time goes on.
Thank you for sharing that.
That is what it is. Thank you, thank you. Okay, ready to vote? All those in favor, raise your hand. Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you. And now our legislative chair, Mr. Farnsworth.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I will be quick because a lot of stuff has already been covered tonight. I will say Columbia is now out of session, which is probably a good thing because they can't do any more damage. They are out of session with no budget, so they are under a continuing resolution. For those keeping score, that continuing resolution is House Bill 3411. So that's what we're operating under. The Senate did pass the budget. The House did not. The House passed it back to their Ways and Means Committee, and then potentially they'll look at that in January. The budget that the Senate passed, I'll tell you, it had, education-wise, it included $50 million for teacher step increases. So I know that's a big item for our teachers and our educators. It included $6 million for our school nursing population. So that's a big bump for that population. As well as they set aside some funds. They set aside $500 million in case of any kind of mid-year cuts or anything that were to happen mid-year. They did set aside a good chunk of money. Again, that went to the House. They adjourned, so we're in a continuing resolution. So I think January we'll see some of that come back. We talked about a little bit earlier the CARES funding. There was, so as part of that, there was some additional, I would say, unallocated funds from the CARES money, and so basically the Department of Education, so Molly Spearman, has a pretty wide latitude of what she wants to do with those funds or what she can do with them, but that's out there. So she's got that authority now to use some additional funding. The only thing, I think the last piece I've got of potential interest, so House Bill 3257, and that one directs, so the next time that the State Board of Education gathers together, so when they do their next review of health standards, they're going to be looking at concepts that address mental, emotional, and social health, which we've already got a lot of that, I know, happening in the district, but from a state level, they're going to be looking at it from a health review. So again, that's House Bill 3257, if you want some specifics on that one. So there you go. Like I said, they're done, which is probably a good thing for us.
Any questions for Mr. Farnsworth? Thank you for that update. Appreciate it. At this time, we want to have a review of road responsibility and ownership, and I believe our attorney, Christy Graham and Tony Souls, will be presenting that for us.
So Mr. Pike talked about a few minutes ago about the parking situation around the new DO and around the stadium. So we contacted ADC, the civil engineers, to look at the entire site plan around the new DO, Somerville Elementary, and the Span Elementary, the whole area around there, to how we can maximize our parking, number two. But number one was to get our students off of Main Street. Because if you've ever been there at dismissal, that's one of those things that you don't really want to see or happen. So in contacting the engineers, they came up with a concept plan, and they came up with this schematic plan. And in looking at that, they found that the two areas that we wanted to expand on were actually DOT thoroughfares. S-74, which is goes down in front of the DO there, where the DO will be, and it's a 484, which is the horseshoe. I don't know if anybody ever knew that was a DOT thoroughfare until we started researching this, and we found that out. So what we plan to do is keep those areas open as fire lanes, while at the same time, we can utilize the areas for our parking plan, for the DO football games, the bus loop, and part of the whole plan picture. And Lee, if you'll change over to the next slide. So this is the plan for behind Somerville Elementary, adjacent to the stadium in that big open field we have now. That area has the bus loop where it comes off of Magnolia. It goes around and holds 12 buses, which is probably more than Miss Parker has need for, but it does get our students off Main Street, puts everybody back behind the school. There is 75 parking spaces there that are paved parking spaces, and there's some additional pervious parking around that where the retention pond is and in the grassed area. So that area is really not impacted by S74 and S484. What we're looking at for those two areas, for the horseshoe, you can see we're going to put 25 additional parking spaces down by the horseshoe. Get my cursor here. Drive over. So right there, we're going to add 25 parking spaces. But to do this and to make any modifications to the parking on S74, we contacted DOT, and they said that they would be willing to, or Ms. Graham, she actually spoke with them, they would be willing to give up those thoroughfares and give them to us. We just had to petition the court to do that. And I'm not really sure how we go about that. I don't drive that bus, but she has got a handle on it, and I think from the way it was explained to us by DOT, it's a fairly simple process. You're going to add in the paper and get to the details.
Yeah, so just to clarify for the board, in order for us to take over ownership of this road, we actually cannot just take it from SCDOT, even if they're willing to give it to us. We have to petition the court for a road closure. So to do that, we would have to post notice in the newspapers, notify adjoining property owners, and post notice on the street prior to our filing with the court. But because SCDOT does not indicate that they plan to challenge it, we believe it would be a fairly straightforward process.
So, do we need at this time to make a motion to proceed with the acquisition of these named roads?
Yes, Madam Chair. I would ask if the board is so inclined to please make that motion for us to attempt to acquire these roads.
Did I just make that motion?
Yes.
Okay, I need a second. Thank you, Ms. Tupper. Any discussion?
Yeah, can I ask, so those become our roads? They become private essentially to the district, correct?
Yes, they would be closed as SCDOT roads and become district property. That would make us responsible for the cost of maintenance as well as the liability for those roads. I understand from Mr. Souls that we have been doing quite a lot of maintenance on those roads anyway to use them in the ways that we want to use them. So I don't know that that's going to be a lot of increased expense, but overall they will become our responsibility so long as we want to use them to maintain them.
You read my mind with my question. Thank you.
Okay. All those in favor, please raise your hand. It is unanimous. Thank you for giving us all that information. It's good information. Okay, at this time, I have two public comments. One is from Kelly Smith. She come forward, and you know we have the 3-minute and no personnel or student-related issue.
Good evening, everyone. There has been a lot of conversation here this evening, and some of this is probably not necessary, but before we go forward, I would like you to stop and think about our SPED kids. I'm a SPED parent. I have a daughter who's in kindergarten. There are 6 children in her class, 3 of whom are registered for Virtual Academy. We went through 2 weeks of virtual. And in our 2 weeks of virtual, I watched every child in that class have a meltdown. Now, none of that is the fault of the teacher. Their teacher, she is working so hard to try and engage those kids. But how do you implement an IEP over an iPad on an 8-inch screen with 10 people looking at these children? My daughter's IEP says that she should identify a letter in a field of 3. There are 10 little faces on her screen. How can she even find the letter? So please, as you push forward, consider those smaller class sizes and think about how you can help those kids, because trying to do that virtually, I mean, even an emergency IEP meeting, and they're like, we haven't even met your student yet. We don't know how to help yet. And I understand that. I don't hold that against the educators. That's not their fault. But we do have to figure out how to help these kids. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, and we have one more, and that is Mr. Stephen Wright.
Good evening. It is a pleasure to be with you all this evening. We're living in times that we've never lived in before. It seems that the only certainty about the future is uncertainty. And these times have called upon strong, resolute leadership. I believe all of us understand that the decisions of the school board have been difficult, controversial, and yes, divisive. But something that I have consistently heard from parents and observing things online is they feel their voices have not been heard. In leadership, it is important to devise a plan, and that plan must have buy-in from all stakeholders. And when the plan isn't working, it is even more important to adjust the plan. Simply put, parents have felt left out, and many students are being left behind. We have heard a fever pitch of fear-mongering, but very little about the facts of this virus. Student athletes have been able to practice and play in sports in close quarters, yet kids can't go back to school 5 days. Some have wondered, what are the priorities of this school board? This weekend, I reached out to a dear friend of mine who actually serves on the Berkeley County School Board. They too came under intense pressure, public condemnation from the public, because of their option to do 5 days face-to-face. They gave parents control over their students' education and making the best decision for their family. I asked this school board member, how many confirmed COVID-19 cases have y'all had in Berkeley County? He couldn't give me the precise number because, of course, we were at a public gathering, but he said he knew that the number was under 7 district-wide among staff and students, and 3 of those cases were confined to the same campus. Berkeley County has been a model for school boards across the state. I believe for too long this debate has been hijacked by a false binary choice. Either you're for kids going to school, and if you're for that, you're for teachers and students dying. And I think that choice is false. I firmly believe that students and teachers can return to school safely by implementing the recommended coronavirus guidelines. It is time for Dorchester District 2 to reclaim our tradition of leadership around the state, give parents the option of virtual or in-person learning, and I'm confident that the voters are watching, most especially the incumbents this election, to see you make the right choice, the courageous choice for parents and families by giving them the option of in-person or a virtual learning model. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Wright. All right, at this time, I need a motion to adjourn.
Yes, motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Mr. Guthrie, second. Ms. Tupper, all those in favor? Thank you. Thank you for coming this evening.